I was really trying to think ahead when buying this truck, and I said, hey, you know what, at some point I'm gonna have kids, which I have one right now who just turned one, and I'm gonna have kids, and if I go on road trips with friends, I need a crew cab and I need a 16-foot flatbed to haul my rig. So literally that was my requirement, and luckily I found this stretched truck already. So I literally drive this truck 6 times a year whenever I go on far rock crawling trips. Otherwise I drive my rig to and from the trail, but if I'm doing far trips or taking a camper, then I use it. So people say, oh, why did 7.3s, they're too slow and they're old and they're terrible and they're loud and all that. And well, this thing was $5,000. I literally drive it like 6 times a year, so why am I going to have a brand new $80,000 truck that'll literally sit in the garage, because I have other vehicles that I drive much more often than this. So that's why I have it, and it does the job. Alrighty, I figured I'd do a quick walk around of my 2000 Ford F550. So I picked it up for $5,000 because the state of California in 2020 deemed them illegal as of 2021. They said you had to either add, EGRs and DEF and all that crap, or they're illegal. So me not living in the state of California, I was able to pick this truck up. I flew into Northern California and picked it up for $5,000. It's definitely a rare truck because the frame was stretched 20 or 38 inches or 37 inches. The wheelbase is 238 inches. You can see right here, you may not be able to see it on this side. Actually, right here, I believe, no, it's in a little bit. Basically, they cut and spliced the frame, and they did an amazing job. This truck was actually owned by the state of California for like 20-something years, and then a kid bought it, had it for a year, and then they said, oh, wow, now this truck is no longer legal. So why did I get it? I had a very, very strict requirement of how can I haul my rock crawler while also having a place to sleep. So I thought about truck bed campers, I thought about big goosenecks, and I thought about a bunch of different things. And I said, well, the easiest way is to put a rig on the back and then haul it, so then I'm not limited by the size of the camper I have. I could pull as big of a camper as I want. So I can say with my 6,800 pound rock crawler, which I'll get into later, it hauls and beautifully from a suspension standpoint. People are like, there's no way it would work, and it works great. And honestly, I was surprised. So yeah, I've done a lot of work to it, but got it for $5,000, and it was a great investment. All right, so as you can see in the engine bay, it's not stock since the turbo was tired, the up pipes were leaking, the injectors were on their way out. What I ended up doing was I did 180/30, stage 1.5 injectors, and then I did a T4 kit, which has come a long way. I think 7.3s had such limited turbo options. So I did the T4 kit. It's a S364.5, 73 millimeter, and a 0.91 AR housing, and that worked great. It was a little laggy, below like 2,000 RPM, just because it was like a bigger turbo. But this thing has 488s, so it's at 2,500 RPM at 70. So it really, on the highway, long drives, it wasn't a big deal. But anyways, I did get tired of it, so I just added the DPS, diesel power source turbinator, which is a VGT. So it'll move the vanes and make it act anywhere from a 0.5 AR housing to a 1.1 AR housing. So I drove it just now for the first time. It seems to work awesome. Low end spool up is significantly better. I couldn't make more than like 10 pounds of boost at like 2,000 RPM, and now at like 1,800 I can make 30. And then I got the typical Donaldson air filter. I did a H-pop lines. I did a CNC stage 2 H-pop. I did a Melling L-pop. I did head studs. just some Costco batteries, you know, what else? I did the Riff Raff fuel lines for the feed kit, so it goes into all four corners. So that's what I kind of got done under the hood. And then since I don't drive it a lot, I got a battery tender in there. But that's what I got for the under the truck. I have valve springs and push rods that are sitting under the seat. I just got to install them. I've had them for a year. I've just never installed them. So I'm a sucker for gauges and diagnostics. I want to know what's going on with my truck. So when I got my bone stock truck home, I immediately added, well, at the time I had boost, fuel pressure, and EGTs. I had H-pop, which was up here. I've since changed it to back pressure, exhaust back pressure. And then down here, a few years later, I added low pressure oil, and then obviously H-pop for high pressure oil, and water temp, because automatic trucks do not tell you water temp. They just tell you oil temp. And then I put in this a Toto A6. Yeah, it's Chinese as can be. But I put it in and I run the torque app, and it tells me, you know, obviously this stuff is stupid. Torque 0 to 60, but really GPS height, GPS speed, gear, slip to see if the torque converter is locked, throttle percent, IPR, that's a good one that I keep an eye on, the voltage, just because these are like dummy meters with like oil pressure and voltage. It just is, you know, working or not. So it's too late. You want to monitor it. And then engine oil temperature. So I have all the gauges. With that, I also have, I added TPMS, you know, hauling heavy loads. I want to know what my temps are. The previous owner put this on the truck. It's kind of been good luck. I guess, I don't know, but I just never took it off. And you can see I am at 398,206 miles. So now I am at about 22,000 miles that I've put on the truck, and I would say 20 to 21,000 of those have been at anywhere between 20 and 30 gross vehicle weight, or gross combined weight. So hauling my rig, or hauling my rig in a trailer, or hauling my rig in another rig. So I mean, it's had a hard 22,000 miles that I've put in it so far. I've also added my own DIY exhaust brake, which I'll get into later. And then of course your, let's see, your hydro tuner right here. And then I have a transfer tank. I got to finish wiring my light bar. And then I got a transfer tank. I've got 19 gallons, but it's 50 gallons or total. So I carry a total of 90 gallons between factory and the auxiliary tank. I got this used. As you can see here, I got a transfer tank from a friend used. It was for a later model truck, 6.7 Ford, and it went in the back of the bed. He was getting rid of it, so I got it super cheap. And yeah, so 50-gallon transfer full tank. I made the mounts, basically just welded them in, and yeah, so 90 gallons on board. Here's the front of the truck. You can see it's got some mismatched fenders. It says F250. This fender was wadded up. I think it had a tire blowout. I actually popped this out when I was working on it. I gotta put it back. Anyways, it's got a light bar on the front. It's absolutely terrible. Front hitch, and then it's got some LED headlights, Amazon ones. It's got, I upped the size. It was 225 70 19.5. I went to 245 70 19.5. Roadmaster RM 257s. They're drives. I have them on all 6, and they're great. And then I just spray painted them some random gray, and you could see I have locking hubs. So this was a 2-wheel drive truck. When the trans was being rebuilt, I had them converted to 4-wheel drive trans, so 4R100. Now it's to an MP271 manual shift. This is from an 06 F550, so coil spring now in the front. I threw some airbags in them just because I've never put them over like 5 psi or 10 psi. I was worried that I'd need them, so I just threw them in. And then it's the later model S130 versus the S135. This front axle is rated, I believe, at 7,000 pounds out of the donor truck. And then the rear axle is 14,706 pounds. So now it's four-wheel drive, which is great because I go rock crawling. And part of my other requirements was I said, I don't want to get stuck. I see RVs get stuck and I don't want to get stuck. So now I have four-wheel drive. I have a DIY exhaust brake. It's literally in a Summit Racing exhaust cutout, and so far it seems to be working pretty well. Drive shaft is the world's longest drive shaft. It's a three-piece drive shaft. Even after converting it to four-wheel drive, it's still a three-piece. So yeah, that's what's going on here. But I had the trans built by a local guy, Chris Bowman. He does a lot of like high horsepower transmission builds for rock crawlers and Havoc style guys, so he built my 4R100 and converted it to four-wheel drive. People think, oh, you have all this weight. Well, how does it handle the load? And like I said, it handles it perfectly, and the leaf pack is huge. It's got like 10 leaves, a giant overload, and like I said, I've been on the 395 in the Eastern Sierras in California with 50-mile-an-hour crosswinds with a rig on the back, and it handles it fine. It is huge. And he's gonna put it right in the back of the truck. I wish I had bigger stuff. This truck is tiny now compared to this behemoth. Here you can see the bed. I definitely want to paint it. That's kind of one of the things I want to do next. Treat the wood and then paint the bed. I think I'll probably do them like in Raptor liner or something. I'll do white, but the bed's in good condition. The ramps are homemade ramps. My buddy said, hey, borrow them until I need them, and he hasn't needed them yet, but I want to build aluminum ramps. I've got a welder to do aluminum, but I'd like to do aluminum ramps to save weight. This truck's about a little over 12,000 pounds, probably closer to 13,000 pounds empty. I weighed it. It was 12.9 with some extra crap in the bed, so I'd say it's probably like 12.5 empty. But it's a heavy truck, so anywhere I could save weight, you know, I'd like to maybe make aluminum ramps. But you can see the spare. I have a mount. I just have to make the mount. I guess they had like a garden truck or something, the last owner, so those are axle shaft holders. So I keep Dana 60 14 bolt, Dana 44 axle shafts. The bed's a mess, so I gotta fix it. You can see whenever I don't drive it a lot, like I said, I haven't driven it in 3 months, so it kind of becomes a storage unit. So I'll clean it out here soon. I've had these forever to kind of clean up the mess in the bed. I got a Toolbox, another one, so I'll probably mount this one next to the transfer tank on the driver's side, this one on the passenger side, and I cannot fit both of them, and I got both of them for $100, but this door is tweaked, so I'll probably cut it and then stitch it back together shorter, and then both would fit on this side. So that's probably what I'll do next. So yeah, just want to have as much storage as I can. Here's one last thing I'll show you. Since I am an off-roader and we go break our stuff in the middle of nowhere, this has kind of become like a little rig that just can help fix parts. So I'm trying to make use out of stuff. So I got all these stake pockets. So I have a vise. I didn't push it all the way in. I just wanted to show you, but got some metal. It falls right in. I've got it propped up right now just to show you, but open up the vise and you can work on U-joints and whatever other stuff. I also have a bender, a tube bender that mounts into 2 stake pockets. So if you ever have a lot of stuff to do, and then I just have a lot of tools and stuff that I bring with me. So we can really rebuild a bunch of stuff out here. I also bring an onboard welder. It's a flux core. It runs off the 2 truck batteries, but so you can weld, you can grind, you can use a bench vise, tube bender. So basically it's kind of like a mobile shop. So, oh, and I got new rotors I got to slap on, and I just have to pick up the pads. But yeah, so this is my F550, and I'll insert some pictures of it hauling some stuff around. So So overall, just trying to do this on a budget. It's cheap. It's a cheap truck, but I do want to make it nice. I plan to keep it long term. So I think next year, since it's we have like 5 days left in this year, my projects will be mount the spare tire on a proper mount, paint the bed so it doesn't look so crappy. And then I really want to work on the interior. The interior is just so ugly. Ignore these batteries, but you know, it's just a base model garbage interior. So I'd like to spruce it up. I'd need to sound deaden it. This thing is so loud. I mean, it's a 7.3 that runs at 2,500 RPM. It's loud. So sound deaden it. Yeah, and clean up the interior. So that's probably next. And then, you know, I always keep like a bunch of spares with me. So, you know, a spare third member, spare 4x4 parts for our trips. And then, I don't know, long term, I may cut the rack off. Just spitballing. To save weight, I'd love to one day like maybe build these out of aluminum. I doubt I ever will, but I was just going to cut it all off and leave it a flatbed. But honestly, it's so useful having this. You can just throw stuff in there and you don't worry about it falling out. So yeah, I actually like them, but they are heavy. If I was to drill a hole through this, I would honestly guess that it's like 3/16 thick. Like, it's just over the top, unnecessarily heavy. So maybe build them out of aluminum, but most likely it'll do absolutely nothing. Oh, and one last thing. People probably will ask, how does it haul? So I have not dynoed this truck, but I can say that these setups, my exact setup, same injectors, almost exactly the same turbo with a T4 kit on not like an all-out tune, but like a tow tune or like a mild street tune. The guy was making, he put down 400 wheel, 800 torque to the wheel. So I'm assuming it's making near, you know, 20 whatever, 13 6 7 power. Now, before I get flamed, no, it's probably not doing it through the big RPM band. It probably doesn't have the same EGT control. You know, there's a million things that those trucks do better, but you know, it'll haul 70 with a rig on the back and towing another rig behind it. You know, I'm really hoping the new VGT helps EGTs a little bit. It's great in the 2,500 RPM range, but lower RPMs, I'd say from 2,200 to 3,000 or redline 3,300, it's happy, but under 2,200, it needed some EGT help. The VGT should help, that new turbo. And then, you know, it's got a 4-speed. So you look at modern day trucks, they've got VGT, they've got liquid to water intercoolers, they've got 6 or 10 speed transmissions. So really my biggest thing is I don't ever feel like I have not enough power. It's more just keeping the EGTs in check, below 2,200 RPM. And you know, with a 6 or 10 speed truck, you can stay at higher RPMs because the RPM drops are not that great. But you know, with a 4-speed, you can shift, and one shift you could drop 1,200 RPM, and then, or maybe 1,900 RPM. So you could be in that power band where EGTs are happy, and then you have to overcome the EGTs while you build RPM up. So I'm hoping some modern VGT technology will fix that for me. But overall, like I said, for a cheap truck that's driven 5 to 6 times a year, it's hauled me all over the Western United States.